I knew the night had shifted the second my mother slammed the stack of overdue notices against my chest and hissed, "If you are so smart, then pay your own bills." Her voice cracked through our tiny Reno apartment like something sharp enough to cut skin, and for a moment I just stood there in my greasy kitchen uniform, stunned, exhausted, and too tired to defend myself. The story you are about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team of the channel Revenge Amber, inspired by real-life situations to convey lessons about family, emotion, and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. I held the wrinkled envelopes in my hands. They were warm from her grip, as if anger had its own temperature. "I already paid the last 2, I said quietly. My throat ached from a 14-hour shift, but I forced the words out anyway. She scoffed, "Then prove you are grown. Pay the rest. You pretend to be independent. Here is your chance." Something in me lurched like a rope snapping after years of strain. "Mom, I cannot keep covering everything," I whispered. Victoria stepped closer until her breath brushed my cheek. "You owe me, Lena. Your father walked out. I stayed. I fed you. I kept a roof over your head. Do not act like you are above your own mother." I felt the heat rise behind my eyes, not from tears, but from a pressure that had been building for years. "I am not acting above anyone," I murmured. "I am just tired. Tired." She laughed, sharp and humorless. "You think you are tired now? Try paying every single bill in this house. Then you will feel tired." I looked at the envelopes again, red stamps, past due notices, warnings. They were not just bills anymore. They were proof. Proof that no matter how hard I worked, it would never be enough for her. I walked to my bedroom without another word. Behind me, she barked. "Where do you think you are going?" I did not answer. My hands shook as I stuffed clothes into my backpack, slid my laptop into the side pocket, and tucked the old photo of me and my dad between 2 shirts. My breath felt tight, like the air had thickened. When I stepped into the hallway, she was waiting. "Lena, answer me. Where are you going?" I met her eyes finally, fully. "You told me to pay my own bills," I said. "So I am going to live my own life." For a heartbeat, she froze. Then her face twisted. "Do not be dramatic. You cannot survive without me." I stepped past her. I have been surviving for years. I walked out into the warm Nevada night and did not look back. Every step felt terrifying and necessary. Somewhere behind me, the apartment door slammed, but the echo only pushed me forward. If you have ever been pushed past your limit by the people who were supposed to love you, stay with me. Stories like mine are why channels like Revenge Amber exist to remind you that you are not alone, that your voice matters, and that leaving does not make you weak. It makes you finally, painfully, free. As I headed toward the dim glow of the street lamps, one thought settled in my chest like a quiet vow. Tonight, something ends, and tomorrow, something else begins. Zoe did not ask me why I showed up at her door near midnight. She just opened it wider, took one look at my backpack, and said, "Come in." Her voice softened the way it always did when she sensed I was close to unraveling. I sank onto her couch, still feeling the echo of my mother's words in my bones. Zoe handed me a glass of water and sat beside me. She yelled again, she asked. I nodded. She told me to pay my own bills. Like I have not been doing that for years. Zoe leaned back, studying my face. What happened this time? She shoved overdue notices at me, said I owed her everything. Zoe exhaled slowly. Lena, you cannot keep living like this. I rubbed my palms together, feeling the sting of grease still clinging to my skin from the restaurant shift. She thinks my entire paycheck belongs to her, I murmured. She knows you try to fix everything, Zoe said. That is why she keeps pushing. I stared at the ceiling. My name is on everything. The lease, The utilities. If she stops paying, they come after me. Zoe tilted her head. Can you remove your name or switch things into hers? Her voice was light, almost offhand, but those words hit something deep inside me. I never thought about it, I said quietly. The idea felt dangerous, like stepping too close to a steep edge. Zoe touched my arm. You do not owe her your entire future just because she stayed when your father left. I swallowed hard. If I stop handling things, everything will fall apart. Maybe, Zoe replied, but maybe that is not your responsibility. Her words settled into the room, heavy and undeniable. For the first time in my life, I felt a small, startling shift, the realization that I could choose a different way to exist. I pulled the blanket over my shoulders and whispered, I do not know what happens next. Zoe nodded. Then, tomorrow, we start figuring it out. The next morning, sunlight crept across Zoe's living room, but it did nothing to quiet the heaviness in my chest. I sat up slowly, my hair tangled, my thoughts worse. Zoe handed me coffee without a word. She knew I would talk when I could. It did not start last night. I finally said. Zoe nodded. I know. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug. I think it started when I was 16, my first paycheck from the grocery store. I was excited. I thought it meant freedom. Zoe raised an eyebrow. And she took your debit card. For safekeeping, I said bitterly. She told me we were a team, that everything we had, we shared, and by shared, she meant you worked and she spent. I let out a shaky breath. Every time I asked for my card, she claimed I did not trust her. She would say, Your father walked out. I stayed. The least you can do is help. Zoe's voice softened. You were a kid. I did not feel like one. I whispered. By 18, the bills were already coming in my name. She said it was easier that way since I was more organized. I believed her. I remembered the nights I sat hunched over the dining table, highlighting numbers, trying to stretch my part-time income. She always pushed the due dates to me. If something got shut off, she blamed me. Zoe frowned. Did you ever tell her no? I tried. I said, once, in college, I was drowning in coursework and working late shifts. I told her I needed to keep part of my paycheck. She looked at me like I betrayed her. She said, So, your education is more important than keeping a roof over our heads. Zoe shook her head. That is manipulation. Lena, not motherhood. I thought it was loyalty, I murmured. The memories flooded in little moments I had brushed aside for years, like the time the refrigerator broke. I was 19, exhausted from finals. Victoria stood in the kitchen waving a repair estimate. You are the one who uses it most, she snapped. You pay. I scraped together the money, even though it meant skipping meals. She never thanked me, or the time I won a small scholarship. Instead of celebrating, she sighed in relief. Good, she said. Now we can pay the rent this month. Zoe listened in quiet anger. She turned your milestones into her safety net. I nodded. Every achievement became another way to keep me tied to her. My voice cracked. And every mistake, every late bill, it was my fault. Even when I was not the one who forgot to pay. Zoe leaned forward. Lena, she reversed your roles. You became the parent. I know, I whispered, but I did not see it then. I was too busy trying to fix everything. A silence stretched between us, heavy but honest. Zoe finally said, You cannot change the past, but you can stop repeating it. I stared down at my trembling hands. I think, I said slowly, that last night was the first time I realized I do not have to live like that anymore. The words felt foreign, but for once, they felt like mine. 2 days later, I went back to the apartment while Victoria was at work. I told myself I was only grabbing the rest of my clothes, nothing more. Still, My hands shook as I unlocked the door with the spare key she always insisted I keep for emergencies. The air inside felt heavy, as if the walls remembered the argument. I moved quickly, opening drawers, pulling out shirts, stuffing everything into a tote bag. I was heading toward my bedroom when something on the kitchen table stopped me. A thick envelope. My name printed across the front. Not hers. Mine. I picked it up carefully, almost afraid to breathe. The words, "Final Notice," glared through the small plastic window. My stomach flipped. I tore it open, a credit card bill balance totaling $7,480. My throat tightened. I had never opened a credit card, not one. I flipped through the pages, each one worse than the last clothing stores across town, food deliveries at 2 a.m, cash advances, none of them mine. No, I whispered, this cannot be real. I searched the table again, heart hammering. 2 more envelopes were tucked under a grocery flyer. I opened them with shaking fingers. A personal loan for $3,000. Utility arrears of $312, all in my name. My vision blurred. I braced myself against the counter, swallowing the rising panic. This was not a struggling mother leaning on her daughter. This was theft, betrayal, a decision she had made over and over again. I carried everything out of the apartment like I was escaping a crime scene. By the time I reached Zoe's place, I could barely speak. She opened the door and froze when she saw my face. "What happened?" she asked. I dumped the envelopes on her coffee table. She opened accounts. I said, "Not one, several." Zoe sifted through the papers, her eyes widening. "Lena, these are in your name. All of them. I know." My voice cracked. She signed for me. "She pretended to be me," Zoe whispered. "This is identity theft." I sank onto the couch, the weight finally breaking through. She did this to me, my own mother. Zoe placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "We are not letting this slide. Not anymore." We spread the envelopes across Zoe's coffee table like evidence in a case neither of us wanted to admit was real. My hands trembled as I lined up the statements, each one stamped with my name in bold letters I suddenly hated. Zoe picked up the credit report I had printed. "You have to look at this," she said gently. I leaned forward. Every line felt like a hit I had not braced for accounts I never opened, balances I never spent, late fees from places I had never been. "She used my social security number," I whispered. Saying it out loud made my stomach twist. She used my name like it was hers. Zoe exhaled slowly. "Lena, this is not just irresponsible. This is a crime." I shook my head. She would never hurt me on purpose. Zoe looked straight at me. She already did. Her words landed with a sharp finality. I pulled out my phone and opened the voicemail folder. "She left these," I said. I pressed play. My mother's voice filled the room, accusing, demanding, belittling. "You need to bring home more money. Do not question me. Sign this. It is routine. If we lose the apartment, it will be your fault." Zoe's jaw clenched. "You have been documenting this for years without even knowing it." I felt my face heat with shame. I kept thinking she would change. Zoe shook her head. "You cannot heal someone who keeps handing you the knife." The next morning, we sat together in the waiting area of the Reno Legal Aid Center. A woman with tired eyes and a calm voice reviewed my documents. She did not flinch. "This is serious," she said. "You need to dispute every account. Freeze your credit immediately. File an identity theft affidavit, and you may need to report the person responsible." I swallowed hard. "The person responsible is my mother." The woman nodded. Unfazed. Fraud is fraud. Family does not erase that. Her certainty rattled me more than my mother's shouting ever had. Afterward, Zoe and I walked out into the dry Nevada air. I felt hollow, but also oddly clear, like someone had opened a window in a room I had lived in too long. What now? Zoe asked. I forced myself to breathe. Now I protect myself. I open a new bank account, move my direct deposit, remove my name from every utility I can, and I start the disputes. Zoe squeezed my shoulder. Good. That is you fighting back. I nodded, though fear tugged at my ribs. This means when things fall apart at home, she cannot use my name anymore. It is not your job to hold her life together, Zoe said. Not anymore. Her voice steadied the shaking inside me. That night, as I froze my credit and drafted dispute letters, one truth settled deeper than anything else. For the first time in my life, surviving did not mean rescuing her. It meant saving myself. 3 weeks passed. I picked up extra shifts, opened a new bank account, moved my direct deposit, and removed my name from every utility that would let me. The electricity provider confirmed it once my name was gone. The remaining account holder would carry the full responsibility. I hung up the phone with my heart pounding, but my voice steady. That night, while folding uniforms on the edge of my bed, my phone lit up. Mom. I almost ignored it. Almost. But curiosity dark. Tired. Honest one. I answered. Her voice exploded through the speaker. Lena. What did you do? The power is off. The whole apartment is dark. I closed my eyes. Did you pay the electric bill? Do not start with me, she snapped. You always handled it. You always fix everything. Not anymore. Silence hit the line like a slap. What is that supposed to mean? She demanded. It means the electricity account is in your name alone now. I said, if you do not pay it, they shut it off. That is how it works. She inhaled sharply. You ungrateful child. After everything I sacrificed, I cut in quietly. You did not sacrifice for me. You sacrificed me. Her breathing grew ragged. You think you can just leave. You think you can walk away from your responsibilities. My responsibilities, I repeated. I have been paying your bills since I was a teenager. I covered rent, groceries, repairs. I took out loans for school, and you used the refund to keep us afloat. You opened accounts in my name. You called it love. It was control. No, she spat. I needed help. You are the only one I have. I steadied myself. Needing help is not the same as stealing someone's future. She gasped, offended. You talked to someone. You let outsiders into our business. I talked to legal aid. I said, I had to. Her voice dropped to a hiss. If you betray me, I swear the whole family will know how selfish you are. That is fine, I said. If you want to talk to them, we will talk with proof. Another silence. Longer. Deeper. Then fear. I could hear it slip into her voice. Lena, you would not do this. You would not turn on your own mother. I am not turning on you, I said. I am refusing to go down with you. She let out a shaking breath. I cannot believe you are doing this to me. I did nothing to you, I replied. I just stopped paying your bills. Her rage cracked. You will regret this. Maybe once. That threat would have gutted me. But now, I said, I regret not stopping sooner. I ended the call. My hands trembled, but for the first time in years, the trembling was not fear. It was release. The next morning, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls. Long paragraphs of rage. Short bursts of blame. One message from my Aunt Marjorie stood out among the noise. Call me. Now. When I answered, her voice came sharp and full of judgment. Lena, how could you leave your mother in the dark like that? She is devastated. She says you stole from her and abandoned her. I closed my eyes. Did she show you any bills? Any statements? Well, no, but I will bring everything. I said, invite whoever you want. Even her. We are doing this face to face. There was a long pause, then a clipped, fine, tonight. Aunt Marjorie's living room felt tight the moment I stepped inside. Victoria sat on the couch with a blanket wrapped around her shoulders, looking smaller than usual, fragile in a way that told me it was a performance, not a condition. She would not look at me. Good. I did not come for comfort. Aunt Marjorie folded her arms. This has gone far enough. Your mother is ashamed to even speak about how bad things have gotten. Victoria sniffed loudly for emphasis. I set my folder on the coffee table. Then let us speak about facts. I opened the first document. Electric bills in my name. Every month. I laid the next sheet beside it. A credit card balance of $7,480. Opened with my information. More papers. More numbers. A personal loan of $3,000. Utility arrears of $312. Aunt Marjorie frowned. Her eyes darted back and forth between the pages. These are all in your name. Yes, I said. Opened, used, and ignored. Not by me. Victoria shot up from the couch, the blanket falling. You ungrateful snake. Digging through my private papers to make me look bad. You did that yourself, I said. My voice shook, but I did not stop. You told me to pay my own bills while secretly putting yours in my name. That is not what happened, she snapped. We are family. Kids help their parents. Kids do not get their identities stolen. I replied. Aunt Marjorie looked between us, unsettled. Victoria, tell me you did not do this. Victoria's mask slipped. Just slightly. I needed help. She is young. She will recover. She should not have to recover from her own mother. I said. She glared at me, her voice dropping to something venomous. You talked to lawyers. Did you not? You are trying to destroy me. I talked to legal aid. I said. I pulled out the final document, a printout of the identity theft affidavit. And yes, I reported the accounts. Her face drained of color. You named me, I had to, I said softly. If I did not, I would be responsible for debts I never created. Aunt Marjorie covered her mouth. This is unbelievable. Before anyone could speak again, a knock sounded at the door. Marjorie opened it. Mr. Rosenfeld, our landlord, stepped in, hat in hand, expression apologetic but firm. Evening. I will be brief. Victoria's eyes widened. What is he doing here? He nodded toward me. Lena requested removal from the lease. The addendum is processed. As of next month, she is no longer responsible for the unit. It will be solely under your name. Ms. Avery. Victoria swayed. You cannot do that. You cannot just walk away from me. I looked at her. I already did. Mr. Rosenfeld continued. That said, the past due balance of $1,086 must be paid by the end of the notice period. If not, we will have to proceed with eviction. The room froze. Aunt Marjorie turned to her sister, shock hardening into fury. Victoria, you told me Lena caused this. Victoria stammered. She tricked me. She abandoned me. No, I said. I stopped letting you use my name as a shield. Victoria's voice broke. Lena, please. You cannot let them do this. You cannot leave me with nothing. Something old in me tugged loyalty, guilt, a daughter's instinct to protect, but something new held firmer. I did not do this to you. I said, I did not open the accounts. I did not ignore the bills. I did not lie to the family. She shook her head, tears finally spilling. You will regret this someday. Maybe once that would have terrified me. Now, I said, I regret letting it go on this long. Victoria covered her face and sobbed. Aunt Marjorie stared at her sister's unraveling, then at me, eyes filled with a painful, reluctant understanding. No one spoke as I gathered the papers into my bag. The truth was already out, and for the first time in years, I was not the one carrying the consequences. Days passed after the showdown at Aunt Marjorie's. but the tension clung to me like smoke. Every time my phone buzzed, I braced myself. Some messages were from family members demanding explanations. Others were from relatives I had barely spoken to in years, suddenly furious or suddenly sympathetic. My mother had wasted no time twisting the story. Zoe watched me as I skimmed another angry text. "You do not have to answer any of them," she said. "I know," I replied, "but part of me still feels like I owe everyone an explanation." Zoe shook her head. "You owe yourself peace. That is it." I wished it were that simple. At the University Counseling Center, I sat across from a therapist whose voice held none of the judgment I had grown used to. "You look exhausted," she said gently. "I keep thinking I am the villain," I admitted, like I destroyed her life. She folded her hands. "Children are not responsible for repairing their parents. What your mother did is called financial abuse. What you experienced growing up is parentification." The words landed heavy. "I spent years trying to keep everything together." I whispered. "You became the caretaker," she said, not because you wanted to, but because she demanded it. A breath shuddered out of me. The truth hurt in a strangely relieving way, like a wound finally being cleaned. Over the following week, I worked extra hours and checked my credit disputes obsessively. A few accounts were marked as under investigation. One had already been frozen. It was not victory, but it was progress. Then Aunt Marjorie called late one evening, her voice softer than before. "They posted an eviction notice on your mother's door," she said. 21 days. I sat very still. "Okay, you sound calm," she said. "I do not feel calm." "I know," she replied. She hesitated. "Lena, I am proud of you, even if it is messy." Her voice tugged something deep inside me. When we hung up, I stared at my hands. The guilt was still there, but it no longer defined me. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled me. Zoe stepped into the doorway. "How bad eviction notice?" I said. She nodded slowly. "How do you feel?" I swallowed. "Like, this is the cost of telling the truth." Zoe walked over and sat beside me. "In the beginning of getting your life back." Eviction day arrived with a gray Nevada sky pressing low against the rooftops. I had not planned to go anywhere near the old apartment, but mid-morning my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. Something in my chest tightened as I answered. Lena. My mother's voice, thin, shaky, stripped of its usual sharpness. "It is me. I am using the neighbor's phone." I said nothing. "They are here," she breathed. "The sheriff, the movers. They are putting my things on the curb. Our couch, your old dresser." "Everything." Her voice cracked, but beneath it was accusation, the old familiar tone. "They are your things now," I said quietly. A hollow laugh drifted through the receiver. "I thought you might want to see what your brilliant decisions led to." She waited, expecting panic or regret. "Instead," I said, "this is the result of your choices, not mine." Silence stretched, long enough for me to hear distant voices shuffling boxes in the background. "Are you happy now?" she pushed. "The lights went out. The bills are in my name. I am losing the apartment. You win." "This was never about winning," I replied. "It was about surviving." "You could have helped," she whispered. "You always helped." "I helped for years," I said, "with money, with time, with everything I had, and you called it what I owed you." Her breathing hitched. "Do you still love me?" The question hit harder than any threat ever had. "Yes," I said. "I do." She let out a tiny, hopeful sound. "But loving you does not mean letting you destroy me." Footsteps shuffled on her end. Someone said, "Ma'am, we need you to sign this." "Where will you go?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I do not know," she murmured. "Your aunt offered a couch, but she will not pay my debts." No one will. That is not my responsibility anymore, I said. Her voice slipped into a familiar, desperate edge. You will regret this. Lena. I closed my eyes. I already regret all the years I tried to save you. She said nothing. For the first time, nothing was all right. Then the line clicked, leaving only the quiet behind it. That evening, my small rented room felt quieter than usual. I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through emails with slow, careful breaths. One message confirmed my credit freeze. Another said an account had been officially flagged for fraud. A third invited me to interview for a better-paying position at the restaurant. Zoe knocked lightly before stepping in. How are you holding up? I am. Starting to feel like my life is actually mine, I said. The words sounded fragile but true. She smiled and set a takeout container beside me. Then you are on the right path. I opened the container, letting the warmth rise. I thought today would break me, but it did not. She said, You chose yourself. That is strength. Lena, a soft breath left my lungs. It feels like closing a door I have been trapped behind for years, and opening one you get to walk through, Zoe added. I nodded. For once, the future did not feel like a punishment. As we ate, I said quietly, There are people out there living inside stories like mine. If they hear this, maybe they will feel less alone. Zoe nudged me gently. Then tell it. Let them know it is okay to step away, to heal. So stay with me, if you are listening. Share what you felt, where you are hearing from, and who you became after surviving someone else's storms. My name is Lena Avery, and tonight I am finally free.